Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Cyber conversation. I'm Kanti. I'm the director of the Cyber Institute, and today I have with me Diana Elaine. So, Diana is the senior application security professional at the Walt Disney Company. With over 2 decades of experience in information technology, cybersecurity, and engineering, Diana has built a distinguished career in strategic business continuity, systems management, and technology leadership. She is renowned for her ability to design, develop, and implement high performance delivery assurance systems. And she brings her various skills in project delivery, executive advisory, DevOps, and quality assurance. In addition to her technical and leadership credentials, Diana also has 8 to 10 years of specialized experience in supplier diversity and DEI initiatives. She has successfully developed and executed inclusive procurement policies. She has partnered with internal stakeholders on diverse supplier strategies, and her impact includes cultivating diverse supplier relationships, aligning sourcing strategies with business goals, and also managing the DEI program metrics and reporting. Diana is a valuable leader in both innovation and equity within modern organizations. Diana, thank you so much for being here today on Cyber Conversations. The floor is now yours.
It's my pleasure. Who's that person you were talking about? Oh, it's so fun. Thank you so much for your kind words. Everyone, I am so delighted to be talking with you today. I just have so much from my life that I think is worth hunting over to the next generations. And so I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to be speaking to every woman who has even a little bit of cybersecurity thought in the mind to move in that direction. I'm going to start by saying, do it, period. Just do it. But I want to tell you the story of how I began this journey, which is kind of it's been a crazy journey, but it's been so amazing along the way. So in the very beginning, I really kind of liked math in a way that maybe most don't. And so from probably like third, fourth grade, I was the child who went to the math book and did the word problems. Nobody wanted to do the word problems, but I did the word problems as it was almost like candy and cookies and ice cream. And the teachers would be so happy that I loved the word problems. And so, really, that's kind of what engineering and cyber is all about now. Is some type of a problem that is put into words that people have to figure out how to create solution to it through technology, people, and processes. So then I get to high school, and my math teacher brings in a person like myself to talk to the math class. Nobody knew that this person was an engineer, but he starts off by saying, "This is what I do, and this is what I've done in my life." And somehow some of the words that he said really resonated with me, and she saw that spark. There's people around you who will see in you something that has not been developed, and it's always something good. Don't listen to the people who say you can't. That's another story for another session. But anyway, she came to me and said, "You're going to be an engineer." I had never had that thought ever. And my parents didn't think that way. And she kept saying that to me. And she ended up being an amazing mentor that literally said, "This is the college you need to go to. This is the program you should be in, and you will be an engineer." I heard those words for 6 years. She even went to the extent to put together my schedule the last year of school, and I graduated at 16. This woman was amazing. She's like, "You got plenty of credits. It's time for you to go and be an engineer." And so I ended up going to college right after turning 16 in that September of that year. Just an amazing, overwhelming experience, and going into a world where in the college I was in, they did not want the female gender. And so I was harassed for all kinds of situations, all the way up to the dean. And so I learned that early on, but I could hear my math teacher's voice saying, "You will be, you will be, you will be an engineer." And that voice from somebody, it might be your grandmother, your grandfather, it might be, somebody that that's like knows you really well. That voice can drive you to great heights in your life. And so as a result, um, I graduated as an engineer. And I started off in aerospace engineering. Now, why was that? Because I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's another story for another version. But anyway, in Tulsa, the big thing was aerospace. And what engineers did there was they would go work for a company that was building um, for the aerospace industry related to government. So they had the huge um, fighter airplanes, and I started in non-destructive testing in aerospace engineering and working with people who had ideas that would turn into patents. And so through many years, I ended up doing what I call the pivot because I would get to a certain place and there were all these other people who wanted the position that I probably should have had, and they would start pushing me out of the light. And so rather than fight over it because we are so strong and ambidextrous as women, we just pulled out another skill set. We pulled out another way to move in a different direction. And as a result, I've been working in more than 20 industries. It's so easy for women to do this. This is how we are all these different things that they termed Renaissance women, because you can always be creative enough to think, I will go in this direction. I'm not saying to avoid going in a path that you want to go in and somebody blocks. I'm saying there's always other alternatives. And I took those alternatives as a fun, creative journey while I was raising my children. I didn't let other people raise them primarily because I didn't have this one path that was set that I had to be at a certain place. But I raised my children. I trained them to be entrepreneurs and thinkers and people who love math and science. And I don't know. I could say so much more. Should I keep going? Okay, okay, I'll keep going. Okay, so my one thought I want to give to you is whatever makes you interested, whatever makes your heart sing, those are the things that are connected to cyber. Now there's like development, there's operations, there's management, there's risk management focus or risk assessment focus. There's applications, mobile applications, there's entrepreneurial creating new tools that help people to avoid risk. All these different kind of spaces that you could go and determine if that's something in there that interests you. But everything's about solving a problem. That's the deal. If you love mysteries, if you like to read books that are dramatic and then have a thriller in it and go on a chase, you're an engineer. Stop playing with it. It doesn't always have to do with math. However, math can be applied to all of those things. There's a TV show that I still watch now, and it's old called Numbers. And in that TV show, he applies math to every problem that the law enforcement folks have. And that's how they solve the problem and find the thief and arrest the person. And yet, people don't even connect those things. I love that show for that reason. I just do it, to relax actually, because you begin to love problem solving to the point where you can solve any type of problem from human related, completely focused on the human, to technical. to a combination of the two, people, process, and technology. I'm sure you've heard those words a lot. Usually it's a combination of those three that the challenge is. It's not necessarily what people even call a problem anymore. We have this challenge. It's a problem. Somebody needs to step up and say, I'll tackle that. That's who you want to be. You want to be that person for a whole bunch of reasons for yourself and a whole bunch of reasons that are rewarding and a whole bunch of reasons that it's going to grow you as a person. Because if you're not moving back from challenge, you're going to be the person who's in the lead solving those. So along my career path and all of the different things I've done, because I went from aerospace and then I actually did some things in insurance. I did some things in financial services. I've been in the government, in utility. I've been in power generation. Um, and here I am at Disney. Oh my goodness. This isn't even my dream job, even though it's a fun job. My dream job was working with an NFL retiree. And I created for him, using my skills and managing what I then created for him, which was he wanted to create a brand. He wanted to, he had this brand idea, and I helped him to design it. I put together the team to build it from scratch, and it ended up winning an award, an architectural journal, because of the way it came together. So I had to hire the team, find the people, and then I literally was at the site managing the building inspections, and was it to code and was it to design? I used blueprinting. You, it's so fun. It's like a game when you start doing these different things. And so I just encourage you, whatever you're interested in, whatever you find yourself doing a lot of, even girls who are fashionistas and love design, there's an engineering component to that even. Maybe you've heard about the different tools that are used. More often than not, right now, there's hundreds of companies that are creating and designing and developing tools that have to do with finding the problems, the challenges within software. That's the area that I've been in for the past 3 years. And those companies are made up of young people who had an idea of how to solve a particular problem that had to do with people stealing software or taking people's creative ideas. These are all just, when you take them down to the least common denominator, it's all about knowing how to take apart a word problem. Isn't that exciting? So, I could go on and on. Let me think. One more thing I want to say to you, diversity. So, my friend on campus said that, I've done DEI. Well, this is how I do DEI because it's different than what you've heard about in the news and what you see. But DEI has to do with skills. How many skills can you have that bring a diverse perspective into the room? That could be simply the way you talk to people and bring information out and then put it all together in a creative collaboration. And now there's a solution where there was arguing. You've brought diversity into that room because they weren't able to do it without you being there. It's diversity of how you think about, almost like a prism, looking at it from a different color, a different perspective. People have wanted to make it culture and things to do with your background. But if you have a diverse skill set, it should not matter what you look like because you're bringing your skill to the table, not those other things. And so I want you to think about that because when somebody brings that up to you, and it in this day and age it may come up, um, list your skills. List the things you love. List the things you've been very successful at creating and doing. And that could be just as simple as I was on a volleyball team and they made me the captain because I knew how to bring the girls together. I knew how to solve their arguments. I knew how to calm them down before they went for a tournament. And we always won because we were all so very unified. Nobody was thinking about anything other than the actual things we had to do. That is diversity in the room. I want you to know it. And it could go to the nations. I have friends who work for the United Nations, and they're like that, where they solve these people problems in an engineering like way. I'm going to hand it back to you because I don't want it to just keep running on. Like, I'm having fun.
Honestly, I don't think any of us would mind listening more, but that was such an interesting, thank you for, sharing your journey with us. That is amazing. I will say I'm the exact opposite. I hated math. And
Uh-oh.
oh my gosh, I'm now, like now that I have this perspective, I can look back and find the exact reason why I don't like it or didn't like it. But
Okay.
I used to cry. I didn't understand the material. And this was coming from an Asian country, from India, where math is very
Oh, very
highly
important.
placed. Oh,
Yeah.
very important. And I couldn't follow along. And then the
Right.
teacher would move on before I understood what this was. And so I used to struggle to keep up. It was challenging.
Painful, probably even.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then
I have to admit, there's never a moment that I did not like math. There were other things, but in college, the math became so regimented, it wasn't
yes.
fun anymore. So I hear you on that. That's when I was crying.
Yeah.
Calculus one, two, three, four, and five.
Mm. I didn't get to do the I think we did Calc 1. I
Yeah.
have a bachelor's in computer science engineering, so I
Oh,
think we
yeah,
did
that's a little
Calc
different.
1, but we didn't go
Mm-hmm.
any further than that. But
Mm-hmm.
goodness, I think it
Yeah,
depends on the teacher as well. When you are
absolutely.
with math, I think it's either a hit or a miss. You need to have
Mm-hmm.
that interest first off, but the other thing, or a huge component of that too, is the teacher. If they are not willing to take the time to make sure, the students are understanding, or they're not explaining the concept in a way that the majority of the students can understand, I think that such a disservice to the students and the teacher.
It is. And here's a pivot though, because I had that. It's so important what you just said because I had that with my daughter
Yes.
who um, she had an interesting teacher. And then my son, when he approached Calculus 1, I knew that if he had that experience that my daughter had, like what you're talking about, we were going to have a very serious situation on our hands, and he really needs to take that course. And so I found an online teacher that was
Oh,
the right type of match for him. His sister was his coach, and he sailed through it. So, what you're saying is so important. If you know that there's things about courses that really could take a lot of your confidence or take you off course, there's so many different ways to get these things now. You literally can take a course from some other college that's been recommended and have that transferred to your college, you know. And so all of that is so important, what you just said, to be aware of that. And don't let things or people discourage you from moving forward. If you know
yeah.
you have those problems like you did, then those are things that you go to counselors and people who can give you those recommendations, how to find that different pivot path that you need for that particular thing.
Yes. And coming back to that word that you used, the pivot word, I know you have a
Yeah,
clip that you would like to share with us. Would you mind doing it now?
absolutely. Let's do that. I love that word. And I'm going to step back and say it wasn't a shift for me, it was a constant pivot. And that's another word that I want to bring to those who are listening for those cues of how to navigate. So you can keep pivoting as you run into blocks. Some people are trying to bust through a ceiling that is always going to be a different type of ceiling, but the pivot is more important. I gained so many skills along the way. I worked in 20 different industries almost now that I'm at Disney. And I worked from the boardroom, the board of directors, to the front line. And in that, you grow as a human being. You learn how to be a true humble leader and to be able to solve problems because people, if they're there, there's problems. Right. Technology brings problems, people bring problems. And if you become that person who can, with patience and peace, bring calm and chaos, that becomes a tremendous skill set that most don't have in any type of scientific background.
I love that clip. It is amazing because what you said earlier about the DEI and the skills that you bring to the table, when we think of skills, when we think of a technical position, the focus or the onus is mostly going to be on your technical skills. Soft skills usually don't play a huge part when, in fact, that is how you can communicate your work, your issues, and
Exactly.
everything. So, I love that clip.
It is so true. You actually become a different person in the room than everybody else, which makes you stand out with diversity
Yes, yes.
because most can't speak to things in a way that really affects the decision-making capacity of a person. It's almost similar to being in a courtroom and
Mhm.
you're speaking to a jury of
To a
people,
jury, yes.
yeah, that need to be convinced this is the truth about the situation.
That is amazing. So now that you've spoken a little bit, I know you mentioned about certain things, but can you tell us more about your journey into cybersecurity? How did that happen? Was it a like a natural transition, or were you more interested and you pivoted that way, or how did that come about?
Yeah, let's keep using that word. So I was on a assignment to, well, let me first say that I've been a consultant for several decades. So that was also part of my journey to be a consultant to various companies rather than take one full-time job. Now, some companies you can do this kind of journey within the company, but in taking that consulting role, I was gaining skill, which is very important. And I was gaining knowledge about what I really love to do. So part of that was becoming a project manager, then a program manager. And in so doing, I touched a lot of these cybersecurity areas by managing through projects. While I was um, employed by a particular company, this company, which was a utility company, had a very serious problem and a $600 million a day cyber risk from technology that was antiquated and nobody wanted to replace it because it could bring the entire company down. And so they kept putting it off and putting it off. They had one person who was knowledgeable about the technology that was there. And on the day that I started the project to move away from the technology, uh, well, let me step back and say, I raised my hand and said, I'll do it. I'll move the technology. Ladies, this is so important. Raise your hand and do what they say is impossible. Take the challenge. I mean, everybody believes it's going to fail anyway, so why not? And so I, though, because problem solving had become what I love, and that's part of it too, I took it. And so that day that we started, we did the project kickoff, person who knew, the only person who knew about the project was fired from the company. So that day, I had to find someone in all of the world who knew this technology and persuade them to be on this team to help us do this. And long story short, that was the start of my journey into cybersecurity. It was replacing a technology that is very well known right now, and they were just getting started with implementing with companies. I had to get to know their company as well as the company that was like a surgical procedure. We had to do it at 4 a.m. in the morning. We had people who were doing very specific parts of it. We had to create um, plans on what to do if these particular parts of it went down. And of course, that's all management, but I had to understand the technical components of it. So I had to learn that on the job, as well as have that piece we were just talking about, how to help people move through challenges. So at one point, there was a particular person who did a particular very technical and sensitive part of that movement. He became very fearful. And he said, I can't do it. I can't do it because he believed it was going to bring the company down. And I had to talk him off that ledge. He literally was on a ledge. And I said, listen, we're up here and we're with you. It was like somebody was on a ledge and he felt like he was about to fall off. And we worked through all of that and removed that technology in about, I believe it was over a couple of months. We did that in the morning, just pieces at a time and move that entire company, never going down, and all of those days avoiding that $600 million complete catastrophe. That was the beginning of it. And then I ended up going to other companies that had um, various types of technology challenges, but also new technology spinning up, which was at that time called emerging technology. So, dealing with what's sunsetting and what's rising up and helping people to understand it, helping people to feel comfortable with it. I'm sure you've heard these words, user adoption, helping people to have the confidence to use something. In this day and age, it's AI, um, helping them to use it so that it could be proven as a viable an important part of the processes of the company. So I don't have my resume in front of me, but from that point, I actually stayed in the utility area for a while and went back in that zone many, many times with about 4 or 5 different companies because there is a lot that goes on with us getting power. That's the bottom line product, power and how we get power from various types of sources in banking, um, that was probably one of the next ones having to do with applications related to, ATMs and how money moves through the world and how you secure PCI, personal data that thieves want to get their hands on in transit. And so that was always part of the mix. And now there's so many other things that are connected to what's called bad actors who
Yep.
have created new ways to steal. It's amazing. Every day somebody gets up to do a job. Some people get up to do the job of stealing things from other people. And yet, that brings that part of cybersecurity into the thought that you really are protecting people as you go into this type of a career. I could tell another story about how my mother was a private investigator. That also is part of my heritage, so it makes me want to do these things. So I hope that answered the questions because you
Yes,
you
you
you're
did.
so
That is
fun.
so
You make me
cool.
go off on these other thoughts.
And I'm sure our audiences would love to know all of that, but we're kind of on a time crunch. Maybe we should
Oh,
do a follow-up
we
conversation with
could.
all
I'd love
the other
to.
ones.
Yeah. Yeah, we should say that I'm opening up to have conversations about any question from any
Yes.
woman through LinkedIn or through your channel. So I just would love to stay in conversation and cause the community to really grow in getting those questions squashed that seem to be keeping them stuck or wondering, should I still be doing this and should I
Yeah.
be going in that direction? I'll be the math teacher that says, you're going to be an engineer.
That would be lovely. Um, with that, right, you mentioned your journey into this. You also mentioned working in many different industries. So
Yeah.
over your career, how do you how have you seen technology or technology change since you've started in the field itself? And how have you adapted?
Yeah, so great question in the sense that so much is happening probably at 10 times faster than at the beginning or more. And so what I just expressed was how this major technology that literally every single company has this technology, and it was brand new at that time. But now the technology is becoming very specific to problems that we didn't even know about then, you know. So, um, how have I adapted? You learn, and you find ways to learn about things both on the job as well as in conferences. There is a huge conference I just went to, the RSA conference that,
I love that
yeah,
conference.
yeah. You guys listening, it was amazing. 65,000 cybersecurity folks were there in one place. If you can imagine that, they took over an
Two of my
entire
team members, undergrad students, were there at the conference too.
unbelievable. And it happens every year. They literally take over downtown
Yeah.
of San Francisco. And it is just an amazing experience if you can. And a lot of times they have free tickets for students who are interested. So keep an eye out for those kind of things. You learn so much just by going to the expo. Speaking of technology and how it's changed, hundreds of different types of technology that are showcasing, are doing demos, that are explaining what their technology does and how it adds to security and how companies need to have it for this reason. I mean, if you are an inventor at heart, if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's a great place for you to connect with like minds and possibly even connect with a company that could, hire you or give you an internship or just, you stay in touch with them and watch how their technology grows and affects the industry. That's how I've learned, is just through various experiences, learning from people, learning from companies, learning from my own study. One of the things that I think is important, though, the first part that I said, which was I wanted to get close to the technology. That's how I ended up in cyber. So project management, gaining a certification as a Scrum Master, those things are really foundational things now for those in cybersecurity because you can get very close to technology. Even if you can't get a position close to it, you can be there and be positioned to understand the technology as well as collaborate with architects and developers and all of the different roles associated with cybersecurity. It'll help you to understand which role you really are more interested in as well. So there's just so many different avenues in. Education is a big one now. um, there's not enough education that is available to companies that's meaningful within companies. That's one of my challenges to myself because I've been here long enough that I know what type of education is needed. And it's one of my pet projects that I'm working on. But the bottom line of what you said is that there's so many different ways to get to know what you want to do, see all the different avenues, and choose one or more to start in. I mean, you can be connected to several at the same time by being in project management, not to mention the fact it will give you a higher salary than if you just started at the bottom in cybersecurity. So it does a whole bunch of things at the same time.
You mentioned certifications, right? So do you see value in obtaining these certifications?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I have a certification in well, let me step back one more. I never got the PMI. You hear a lot about the PMI. And because I had had so many valuable experience. I qualified for a professional program to gain a certification in program management from Stanford. Now, that's to me, that program, I knew that it was higher than the PMI, but many people didn't even know it was offered. I had gained so much skill on the job that I could go and take that certification rather than going through that PMI. The Scrum Master certification, I had literally done that work for 10 years before it even was a such thing. So when I went to that course, I'm like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years. They better give me that certification. But it is important because then it's easier for companies to know that you've gone through a very structured course in order to give you that extra skill that most don't have. Again, I'm back to that point of these softer skills, knowing how to help people collaborate and bring out solutions. They're they're so valuable now, and that's a great thing to put in your initial foundation as soon as possible.
So I've got a couple of questions that are related to your current role.
Okay.
What's the most exciting part about working in application security for a large company?
So application security is a fun place to be. If I had to do it over, I would go to mobile application security. I worked with them. But again, like I'm saying, if you go in one place and you start collaborating with other people, oh, I should have been over there instead of here, or I should be doing that instead of this. So mobile application, of course, is is different things when you look at it. It's from the mobile device to being able to place your applications in various places as an application. Those things and rules associated with that are growing still. It's still very, very new on how to secure and protect and defend an application. The applications within companies, like I can't talk specifically, but for example, when you go on the Disney streaming on your television, that's still an application, and there are um, very specific technologies that test those to ensure that they're safe enough that when you're streaming, you can't steal the IP and you cannot duplicate it and you can't enter a place within technology that would cause problems to the actual streaming experience, all of those technologies. But I'm moving to a different area called governance. And we talked just a little bit about policy when you said that at the beginning. I thought, oh, yay. Policy is so important because for every company and every product, if you don't have policies that are standards that people are doing the development and the operations and continuing to build on the technology or change the technology, then everything becomes like a big pot of soup with a whole bunch of stuff thrown in. And more, um, the concept of policy as code is growing because developers are trying to develop so fast, they're not thinking as much about security because of the pressures of um, developing a new app or changing the app to the customer request or um, getting ahead of the competition. It's a brand new app that's come out. It does some of the same things. It has extra things that people will want, so they won't want our app. That's a lot of pressure on people who are developing those. And so the policy as code is a very interesting place that I now find myself in. So I'm going to be learning about that. Next time I talk to you, I'll be able to tell you about what's wonderful about policy as code, even though I've studied it a little bit. It's going to be fun to do it, actually. So, yeah.
That's
So the
so
role I'm in, I
exciting.
can't tell you more specifics, but it's
Okay.
fun in the sense that it's problem solving. Do I have to do math calculations? No. See? It does get less,
Yeah.
but it does require you to use critical thinking, which is part of math. That's what you're really being trained in when you learn math, is how to think critically about things so that you don't just think in terms of very linear thoughts, but you can go from one thought to the other and kind of put together an equation that gives you a solution. So
Yeah.
I hope that's helpful.
Yes, that's wonderful. Now, the other one that I had about work, or particularly what you do now, is earlier you mentioned working in many different industries, right? So, how do you adapt your cybersecurity strategies to the different industries that you've worked in? For example, you've said energy versus now where you are, entertainment.
Yeah.
How does
Mhm.
how do you adapt your strategies
Well,
to?
it's similar to um oh man, that's why math is so important because and I'll tell you I think the most important math is algebra because everything is an algebraic equation or can be represented that way. So A plus B equals C. But what is A and what is B? So in this case, rather than in a utility, A is the product of entertainment, B is delivery of that entertainment, and C is the delivery mechanism, which in our case is various things, television and video and movies. So for utility, A is energy, not entertainment. B is um, getting it to a million households in city. And C is making sure it's there and available when they want to turn the light switch on or uh, turn on the water hose or anything that has to do with utilities. So you adapt again, it's all about thinking and how you go about thinking about life and challenges and stories and problems. Everything's a story. That's why I like reading the word problems because they were all stories. Johnny starts at this place and he ends up at this place. How fast did he walk? It's a
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
So I'm at the ultimate story place now. I've gone through all these different things, and yet I'm at this ultimate place where the stories told are actually the stories we're creating through technology. And will I say it's easy? No, you have to learn how to think that way, and that's why you go to school. That's why courses, even in high school, are important. From um, if I would say, what are the most important courses to work at Disney? It might be English, learning how to write a story.
Yes.
Um, it might be math, learning how to take that story and make it quantifiable. It might be history because there might be history that's needed in that story. And then it might even be like a certain type of science that brings it to life and makes it connected to technology or um, delivered in a certain way that's innovative. So every course that you take in high school doesn't seem relevant, but they have pieces that are relevant. I think that's important to say to those in high school and keep an eye out for those things that happen in classes or periods of taking several courses. Like, you have to take English all the time, but there's a certain period of time when you're taking English for literature versus um, writing. So which one is more interesting to you? I mean, if writing is more interesting, it may be that you want to go towards developing code. If literature is more important, maybe you're not that code person, but you're someone who wants to create from the code um, a particular type of process flow within technology. Well, that's another angle too. The whole process of moving technology and moving code into being useful. There's all these different things within just very simplistic courses that you take in high school that are connected to that. If you love band, if you love music, if you love art, all of those things are translatable to being in cyber. So,
Well said. Now, I know that we are almost at the end of our time, so I'll wrap up
okay.
with one last question.
Okay.
You touched on it before, but what is one piece of advice that you would give to all the young people that are watching this video?
What's my big advice? My big advice is never let the opportunity to be involved in solving a problem go by. It could be in your home. You have a little brother or sister. They keep doing this one thing over and over that drives mom and dad crazy. Come up with a solution. You're practicing. You're on the road to being a proficient and practiced problem solver. And you'll take it in some direction of life. It may not be cyber, but so many things touch cyber in this day and age. If you become just a technologist in a certain area, you could just end up a manager of folks in technology. You could end up being the person who decides which vendors to utilize that are connected to cybersecurity. In every one of those roles, you're going to have to solve problems. So just start doing it every turn, and you'll find out it becomes like a game, like putting Legos together,
Yeah.
building something every time.
That's so well said. Again, it makes me think I did not learn any of that. I get
Yes, you
very
did.
frustrated with Legos and with math. I get very frustrated very quickly. But then with Legos, I know that I can put it together. Like it's not that difficult. But with math, it took me a really, really, really long time to get over that feeling of, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm solving it right. To the point where I just said, I'm going to replicate the steps the teacher told me. We'll see what kind of solution we get to. Like we'll figure it out when we get to the end. So it took me a
Exactly.
while, but
Let me say that
yeah,
what I hear you saying, though, it really is about gaining confidence. That's why
yes, yes,
solve every problem that there is. Mom and dad don't even need to know you're working on that problem until you get a
yeah.
solution, you know? And then the confidence in that I can do it starts growing earlier rather than later, which is, what I hear you saying about the fact that you got the degree and you're doing this amazing work here says a lot about really what's in you, and it's coming out now to help others. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. That is so sweet of you to say. Thank you. So, with that said, we are at the end of our Cyber conversation today with Diana. Once again, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, it's my
You took time
pleasure.
out of your day to be here with us. So, thank you so much, Diana.
So fun, so fun. I look forward to talking again and in various channels. And thank you so much again for inviting me. I just had a blast. And love all you ladies who are already engineers.
Thank you to our audiences for your continued support. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on our various social media.
Very
And
cool.
we will be back shortly with another cyber conversation. Until then, be curious, be bold, and be secure.